Let's talk about growth, conscious expansion and growth. And spiritual growth is pretty cliche, but let's just call it conscious expansion, consciousness expansion, and consciously expanding and growth. Let's talk about the process of growth and my perceptions around that, because what I have experienced the last year has put me into huge states of growth, and therefore generating, by the choices that I've made in my life this year, it's allowed me to generate wisdom. And of course, wisdom is acting upon a situation. In my experience, is wisdom is acting in a situation with a choice, with a clear choice, and acting in a way that is for my best interests, right? Myself first, and then other people afterwards, in regards to how I choose to relate to a situation. So, in my experience, there is no growth without conflict. There is no growth. There is no growth without discomfort. Because once you get into a place of being comfortable and getting into a place where everything is easy, you're not challenged in any way to have experiences where you make choices, if you're consciously aware, to make choices that are different maybe to the ones that you would make when you're not aware. And so throughout my experience in this lifetime, I have made some decisions in my lifetime, very unconsciously and consciously knowing that they were poor decisions, and what I would reap from my decision would be not benefit, perhaps in the long term, but maybe in the short term. And as a consequence of that, those choices that I made with full self-awareness and without full self-awareness, what I experienced was anything but harmonious in my life, and actually the repercussions of my choices came back to bite me in the ass hard. So this year, what I've experienced is what I knew and had reaffirmed to me last week, well, just this week, just gone, from a friend of mine, who I consider my psychic counselor, who's clairaudient and also reads the digital level of the simulation, if you're looking at the David Icke work, through the use of astrology and the use of tarot cards, right? So reading resonance, reading on the digital level. If you're looking at the holographic form, electrical to digital to the simulation field, from electrical to digital to holographic. That's the way it plays itself out in the simulation, according to the work of David Icke and many other people, scientists, cutting edge scientists, who see this experience we're having as holographic. So therefore it has to come from electrical into digital into holographic. So electrical in regards to particle waves, into waveform patterns, into numbers, math, and then into holographic form, right? So my friend who reads the digital level, the numbers, numerology, reads energy, reads tarot cards, reads it on the digital level, and then translates it into the holographic. So what she said to me this year, the reading I had this year with her, conversation reading, was that what I'd learned this year is what I don't want to experience in my life, what I don't want to experience in my life. And by doing that, I gain wisdom through that experience, and it allows me to make better choices in my life through my conscious awareness, to make better choices in my life. And those better choices I make have a resounding effect on how my experience of my life within the simulation is, from that place of awareness, conscious awareness. So for me this year, I have seen some of the worst behaviour from people, in my perception. Remember that I'm perceiving this. Their behaviour is what it is, but my perception is that their behaviour to me, because the nature of how it affects me, is terrible. Because how it affects me, it leaves me with choices. My choices are not necessarily beneficial for me, but this has to be an active form of acceptance, an active form of surrender to what is, due to the nature of my lack of control of situations, which I don't want to control, right? I'm not here to impose my will upon anybody else. That's what the authority in the system does. That's not me, right? I don't tell people how to live their lives. I tell people how I perceive my own. That's it. I would never tell anyone how to live their fucking lives. How ridiculous. There's so many people on YouTube that do that, tell you how to live your lives, give you information about how to live your lives, and cite other people's information and plagiarize it without telling you where they got it from. I'm not one of those people, right? I'm authentic, I'm real, I'm honest. That's what you're going to get. What you see is what you're going to get. What you hear is what you're going to hear from me, is me often citing other people's work, but also giving you my personal experience around that work when I'm using it myself. So this year I have seen behaviour that has been for me detrimental to my, and at least in the moment when I'm experiencing it, detrimental to my life experience, right? But looking back at it now, almost a year later, I've seen that what's garnered for me is wisdom. What I don't want to experience, who becomes a small dose person in my life, small dose man or woman in my life, not a person, that's a legal fiction, that's an illusory, fictitious body. Fictitious bodies in regards to corporation, man or woman. Being a person's a fictitious, doesn't exist. It's fictitious. A man or a woman, excuse me, in my life, right, whose actions, whose words, whose deeds has been detrimental to my life experience. What it's allowed me to see is that I have also seen these people as my mirrors. I was at a somatic dance last night. I had the somatic dance in Mount Eden with the Auckland Somatic Dance Collective. I pulled a card because they have like an altar set up where you can go pull cards. I pulled 2 cards. The first one was a moon in Gemini, which was brilliant, and I'm not going to go into that right now. But the second card was about everyone is your teacher. Everyone you meet is your teacher, and that's true. It's totally true. So what I've learned from these people that I've had these experiences with was that I'm seeing myself reflected back at me, my own behavior when I was younger, when I was moving through the simulation, let's call it that. I'll call it the simulation. I was moving through the simulation and playing out the programs that I was programmed to play out because of my conditioning through my peers, through my family, through my experience and my environment. What I've seen, heard, done, the conditions, the programs that were programmed into me as a child's awareness, and how those have gone into my subconscious and they play themselves out in my reality because of the nature of what I'm resonating out into the field, the quantum unified field of all possibility. So by resonating out that out into the field, what I experienced, and by actually myself generating those experiences through my own actions, words, and deeds, which are all frequencies into the field. Of course, what I'm going to receive back at some point in my life was that which I gave out. I got it back this year, and I saw it. And I thanked these people for being my teachers to show me that which I did not want to receive in my life or be anymore in my life, and who I'm not, right? Most importantly, who I'm not. And that's where the wisdom comes in for me. The wisdom comes in due to the fact that I can see other people's actions, words, and deeds, and see myself in that experience, and then go like, right, okay, here's where the growth is for me. I will not act that way towards that individual. I will not be mean, cruel, or horrible. At the beginning of the year, I definitely had a moment where I was feeding back into the Loosh farm at the beginning of the year, and I was furious with some clients that I had doing an interior-exterior decorating job in Mangatapiri near Whangarei, which is north of Auckland, about 2.5 hours north of Auckland. I was absolutely livid with some people up there who pulled the pin on me and my team to do a painting job up that way. When I was ready, I'd travelled up there to do the job, but I'd actually left the job in Auckland to go up there. And here's the thing for me, looking at the situation with regards to my wisdom that I've gained, I had the choice to tell them, no, I'm not going to come up until I've done this job in Auckland. I take full accountability for my actions and my words and my deeds. I'm responsible. I could have told them, no, I have a job here in Auckland to do first. I'll do this job first in Auckland, and then I'll get back to you, right? But they had said to me, come on up now, no, don't worry about the Auckland job, just come up right now and start our job right now. I could have said, no, this feels right for me to stay here and do this job first and come up and see you afterwards. But I didn't. I felt into the experience, and what felt right for me at the moment, in that moment, was to go up to whangara, up to Mangatapiri, and begin this job, which I started for 3 weeks, and they pulled the pin on me. As a consequence of that, what could have been up to $30,000 New Zealand in my bank account was less than 3. And I was livid because I was going to go traveling this year with that money for perhaps 6 months. And who knows what my experience would have been. I travelled for 6 months around the world. But what I got to do here in Auckland was to meet people, have experiences, gain wisdom, see my own repercussions of my actions come back to me and other people from years and years ago, to know what I don't want to experience in my life, to see that clearly through partners, lovers, friends, family, myself, all of the above. And I have had so many trials and tribulations this year, as you already know from my video I did on my birthday, about my life experience being here in Auckland. But what I've learned through the wisdom of taking a step back and making different choices, there's been moments where I know now. There's been moments before when I was so stuck in the pattern of rinse and repeat in regards to how I choose to respond or react to a situation, that I would go into what felt familiar, most importantly, and by doing that would respond or react in a way that wasn't cohesive to how I would choose to want someone to respond to me if they were in the same situation, if the situations were reversed. That makes sense. So being consciously aware, the last few months I've realized as well, by acting the way that I do, if I act in a way that's heavy or dense, has dense, heavy vibrational frequencies or energies, any emotions that are heavy and dense, I'm feeding back into the loosh farm of the simulation. The bricks and mortar, and I felt this for years and years and years, I felt this. The bricks and the mortar of the matrix are all the heavy, dense emotional fields, emotional energies, frequencies that we emit as resonators into the field, right? So everything in the simulation is geared up, like algorithms and programs, to be a loosh farm, to put us in a situation where we are constantly in the heavy, dense emotional fields, frequencies, and therefore the bricks and mortar of the matrix, of a simulation, are thrown against it. Some of that goes to these astral demons, as David Icke talks about, Gnostics talk about, to feed them. Some of that does. Maybe the heavier, denser vibrational frequencies. There are moments where we have massive loosh events globally, 9/11 being one of those. But there are times when the individual algorithms, programs that are our lives, if this is true, and the more I feel into it, the more it feels to be true to me, in my experience, that the artificial AI that controls, which is interdimensional, which is light years beyond what we have in our public arena in this part of the world and on our planet now, light years ahead. I mean, literally thousands of years ahead in the lower astral, which programs every soul's incarnation into this realm, into the simulation, with a lifetime program. And that program, unless that program, as David Icke quite rightly says, isn't hacked, and then consciousness comes in from a position of the fifth dimension and hacks into the simulation and changes the trajectory of that consciousness along its programmed path, it will continue along that programmed path for its entire incarnation along that path and continue to be loosed. The loosh farm will continue all throughout that lifetime, human lifetime, and will be loosed by these astral demons, by the system, for the bricks and the mortar, and to feed these astral demons. So for me, knowing this information and making different choices, especially in the last few months, what I've seen is that I have become a rogue element in regards to my consciousness, my conscious awareness, living in my heart vortex. I have seen through my own wisdom, through my own experience, the moment I go deeper and deeper into my heart vortex and feel myself in the fifth dimension, and feel my awareness truly there, my point of awareness in the fifth dimension, and that this experience is illusory, and my holographic form is simply that, a holographic form, and I feel like I'm in the world but not of it. when I have that, I go deeper and deeper into that feeling, into that experience. What happens is that I'm a rogue program in the simulation, and the artificial intelligence is so clever that it can pick up those rogue elements within the simulation, and then therefore it fires all this shit at you, all these programs at you, to bring you back into the loosh farm, to trick you to come back into the loosh farm, to drag you back down. Because when you're rising up out of it through your heart vortex, it wants to grab you, seize you, and bring you back into the farm. You know, bring you back into the loosh farm, corral you and bring you back in. So every experience you have. In the last 2 weeks, I've had the craziest experiences from people and from situations with my accommodation, my van. I'm not going to get into stories, but I've had like several incidents happen in the last few weeks that have just been like, holy fucking shitballs. You know, the way I used to deal with these situations, I would throw my toys out of the cot. And now I'm just going, I literally am sitting in this feeling of going like, I see what you're doing here, Yaldabaoth, which is the name that the Gnostics gave to the simulation, the consciousness that moves through the simulation. I see what you're doing here. You can fuck off. I'm going to sit in my heart vortex, and you can throw whatever you want at me. I know who I am and why I'm here. I'm hacking into this fucking simulation, and you can go fuck off. You can fuck off. Seriously. You can come with me back to the fifth dimension and beyond, back into infinity if you'd like to. I'm happy to bring you along and show you the way, but I'm not going to respond or react in a way that's going to feed into the loosh farm in any way. No way. I'm not going to do it anymore. As much as I possibly can, because I am a man having an experience in the simulation, right? There'll be moments where I slip, of course. But as long as I'm consciously aware, and I have the ability to be consciously aware, and I have the ability to actually know when this is happening and why it's happening, and I just go like, you know what? I'm just going to stay here. I'm just going to sit in my heart vortex and know that my awareness is in the fifth dimension and beyond, and that this is just another experience that's been thrown at me to bring me back into the loosh farm. I'm not going to buy into it. I'm going to be calm as I possibly can. I'm going to be looking at the situation going, I don't want to experience that. I wouldn't want to be like that anymore, and I'm not going to act that way, even though this individual or these individuals are acting towards me in a way that's very disharmonious and not in coherence with my heart vortex. So be it. I will sit there, I will be there, and I will act from that place towards these people and towards these situations as best I possibly can. And the more you do that, in my experience, the more you sit in that heart vortex, the more you will gain the wisdom if you are as an observer watching what unfolds, as an observer watching, knowing that you are not in of the world, you're just partaking of it, looking through the lens of the holographic form from fifth dimension into this one. You will see the loosh being thrown, the loosh farm throwing everything at you, including the book, to bring you back in. But as you rise up, you're going to get to a point where you become invisible to that loosh farm. And these, in my experience, these moments begin to slip away because you're resonating too high. Your resonance is too expanded. And in that expansion, you are tapping into infinite possibility. And in that place of infinite possibility, you've come home. And here, you are untouchable. Thanks for watching. I truly appreciate it. Mateo. I'll see you again soon.